We're continuing on in this chapter to the function of reason. There's also much to be said in the very next section about reason as well. Turns out that deep within you, there's an essential untapped capability called spiritual reason. It's a type of soul intelligence. And this ability is not available to the ego. And if you don't use it, your faith and beliefs will remain chained to false beliefs, and illusions will seem to be real. So, as we know, life is full of opposites. And the question is, how do we bridge the gap between these opposites? For example, in spiritual bypass, unresolved wounds are avoided, but not so with spiritual reason. With spiritual reason, all that was hidden by unawareness is brought into the light of understanding to be judged again, only now using spiritual reason. Mistaken judgments are dismissed as causeless because their nothingness is recognized. With so much depending on spiritual reason, let's make sure that we understand what it really is. Welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonaca, and our reader today is Julie C.
Perception selects and makes the world you see. It literally picks it out as the mind directs. The laws of size and shape and brightness would hold, perhaps, if other things were equal. They are not equal. For what you look for, you are far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. The still, small voice for God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless ravings to those who want to hear it. Perception is a choice and not a fact. But on this choice depends far more than you may realize as yet. For on the voice you choose to hear and on the sights you choose to see depends entirely your whole belief in what you are. Perception is a witness but to this, and never to reality. Yet it can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality is possible, or those where it could never be.
Mm-hmm. So one of the key learnings in A Course in Miracles is to understand the laws of mind that include the laws of perception and the behavior we call projection. And so it's essential to realize that your perceptual world is determined by how and what you choose to see. You can exercise your free will. If you don't like the world you see, you can exercise your free will to see it differently. It's a choice and not a fact. What is not recognized is the implications or the responsibility you have to yourself in making this choice. Far more depends on it than you may realize as yet, because your entire belief system about yourself, others, and your relationship, about life itself, hinges upon this perceptual system that you hold. I want to bring your attention, there's a subtle point to this last sentence when we're talking about perception as a witness and never to reality. It's a witness to your own belief system. You go looking for what you already believe. Yet, perception can show you the conditions on which awareness of reality is possible, or in the opposite, those where awareness of reality could never be. So, and this comes back that there's a major teaching about the laws of mind that have to do with what are the conditions of your mind needed for you to be aware of peace? What are the conditions of your mind to fully accept love into your awareness? And it turns out that all of them have a foundation. It has to do with the foundation upon which your mind rests, your consciousness rests. And so perception can and does show you the conditions upon which you can become aware of reality, or the conditions upon which you will believe illusions to be true. Having said all that, it's necessary, and we won't have the opportunity to do this today in this session, but we will need to become more clear about the conditions in which our consciousness can find peace and can find love, can find healing. It doesn't just happen right after you were in the midst of total unawareness. You have to have, your mind has to be in a miracle ready condition or state. We'll go on.
Reality needs no cooperation from you to be itself, but your awareness of it needs your help because it is your choice. Listen to what the ego says and see what it directs you see, and it is sure that you will see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid. You will experience depression, a sense of worthlessness, and feelings of impermanence and unreality. You will believe that you are a helpless prey to forces far beyond your own control and far more powerful than you. And you will think the world you made directs your destiny, for this will be your faith. But never believe because it is your faith, it makes reality.
Well, I want to address that last line. Let me first talk to the material before that. So everyone knows what it's like to listen to what the ego says and see the world through the eyes that the ego directs. Everyone knows what that's like and knows what the feelings are like that come with that. They list many of them here. Seeing yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid, feeling impermanent and unreal, a sense of meaninglessness. My philosophic term for it is existential despair, existential hopelessness about life. And then here's the key. You will believe that there are forces far beyond your control. We refer to them as outside forces that have determined the way you feel and what you believe. This is what the ego would have you to believe, is that you are a victim of the world you see, that it is the cause, the world is the cause of these feelings. When we call that upside down perception, the alternative view, which is a right side perception, is that the foundation for your beliefs is within you. That, let's see, what is the workbook lesson number 7? My salvation is determined by me and what I see in my belief system. So this requires a reversal from believing that you are a victim of the world outside and it affects your inner world, switch reversing that to taking responsibility for your own sight, that I and my beliefs that I hold to and treasure are the foundation, and that influences the way I look out at the world. But never believe, because it is your faith in the outside world that it makes it reality. This goes, what we all know of the common folk wisdom of seeing is believing, and I'll believe it when I see it type, which is to affirm that it's a mistake. It's the mistaken belief that as long as you perceive it with your physical eyes, then it must be true. Well, a magician on stage can convince you really quickly that what you see with your physical eyes is not true, necessarily true, that there's things that you don't understand. Never believe that because you have put your faith in what you see, that it is therefore the truth, that it is therefore real. This is probably the biggest. Don't trust everything that your eyes see. There are, if you will, magicians. There are illusions. There are impressions, especially in our modern world of electronics, where you have media and advertisers trying to influence your opinion. You can't believe everything that you see with your eyes or everything that it's said. You have to learn to question these things. And this is what is the beginning of awakening to spiritual reasoning. The realization that just because you had your faith in it doesn't make it real. You have to learn to question things for yourself, to think for yourself, but not without help. All right, before I go on, let me see if there's any comments or thoughts. Is this confusing or is this clear? We're setting up, like the course usually does. It initially describes the nature of the problem, the way things have been, and is often the assumptions that we've held commonly in our world, and then we'll move on to the solution that the course offers. Let's go on.
You do not realize the whole extent to which the idea of separation has interfered with reason. Reason lies in the other self you have cut off from your awareness, and nothing you have allowed to stay in your awareness is capable of reason. How can the segment of the mind devoid of reason understand what reason is, or grasp the information it would give?
Julie, I'm sorry, I skipped a slide. Let me, we're going to get to this slide in just a moment. But somehow must have had a double click there. So we'll go back to paragraph 3 and then we'll move on to 4.
There is another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting but your choice. And if you place your faith in them, you will perceive another self in you. This other self sees miracles as natural. They are as simple and as natural to it as breathing to the body. They are the obvious response to calls for help, the only one it makes. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego because it does not understand how separate minds can influence each other, nor could they do so. But minds cannot be separate. This other self is perfectly aware of this, and thus it recognizes that miracles do not affect another's mind, only its own. They always change your mind. There is no other.
So I find it very helpful to use a metaphor that within your mind there are two rooms. In one room would be very much influenced by your experience on this world and in the so-called wisdom of the world and the teachings of the world. It's teachings often based on chaos. The ego's religion rules in that room of your mind. And in the other room, there's a doorway between these two rooms. And in the other room is where you perceive another self in you. It's literally so different that your self concept changes as a result of being illuminated and your understanding and your perception being filled by this other room. It's a new self concept. It's a self concept that is full of hope and healing and connection to others. So we refer to it as your higher self. Um, this self sees miracles as natural uh, and responds to all situations in a different manner than the false self that you thought you were in the room of the ego. This is not a teaching that a lot of people are aware of, that they have two selves, and that there's a doorway there to your other self. Once you accept and get comfortable with the idea of two selves and a doorway between them, you can then decide which room do you want to make your life in. And then once you, if I'm jumping ahead here, assuming you decide you want to find your life in the room of hope and peace and Holy Spirit illumination, everything becomes oriented around finding that doorway into the other room. Uh, and that is part of what we're reading about today, because spiritual reason is one of the gifts given to you to help you navigate yourself to that other room. Julie?
Thanks, Jonaca. Part of my illusory experience in this life and in this body is working with mental health professionals for my own good. And some of the concepts that have come up repeatedly and that are very much a part of what I use today involve the idea that a person has composite parts. And in times when I was much less open to healing, my entire reality was fusion and enmeshment. And it made it extremely difficult to envision a life where healing was possible for me based on what some of these people were asking me to consider, because I didn't it wasn't my experience that I had the capacity not to be completely fused. So this idea of 2 rooms for me makes a lot of sense today, and it's a relief. And I'm relieved by it, and it allows for me to feel a lot of clarity and peace around the capacity to choose another room. For example, it's not me with a backpack full of flashlights going into the dark. It's a whole other room. And today I really appreciate that.
Mhm. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. It is true that people that have either worked in the mental health profession or a lot of other helping professions, it doesn't just have to be where you work closely with people and come to recognize their struggles, whatever it is that brings you to introspect in your own experience in this world makes grasping these ideas that we're talking here seem so much more natural and logical and like a relief to have it so clearly expressed, because even if you introspect about all that, it's still shadowy and obscure when you're doing it on your own. And then when it's clarified by the great teacher here, it just, it's like, aha, thank you. That's what I needed to know. So so glad that you're find it useful, Julie. All right. Anybody else before, or we'll go on. Now we'll move to paragraph 4.
You do not realize the whole extent to which the idea of separation has interfered with reason. Reason lies in the other self you have cut off from your awareness. And nothing you have allowed to stay in your awareness is capable of reason. How can the segment of the mind devoid of reason understand what reason is, or grasp the information it would give? All sorts of questions may arise in it, but if the basic question stems from reason, it will not ask it. Like all that stems from reason, the basic question is obvious, simple, and remains unasked. But think not reason could not answer it.
Mm-hmm. So we have to, so we're into looking at reason as a helpful gift here. One, we need to clarify what we are not talking about. There is and has been, will continue to be, the idea of scientific reason, whereby the material facts of the world are assembled together that allows you to build the world's tallest building and it doesn't fall down. There's a whole line of logic and calculation and reasoning that a set of scientific reasoning that allows you to send a man to the moon. We're not talking about scientific reasoning in this context. We are talking about spiritual reasoning. As it says, it's the reasoning which is recognized by that other part of yourself, the part that is illuminated by the Holy Spirit. It's reasoning that comes from that. And here is the, might as well face the condition as it is, that we don't realize the extent to which the idea of separation has cut us off from spiritual reason. The idea of separation is that you have no contact with spirit, and therefore have no access to the gifts of spirit, and therefore Material scientific reasoning is the only thing that you'd be left with. What the Course says is, yes, in the room of the ego, that seems to be true. But the minute you pass through the door into the other room, you realize there's additional spiritual reasoning is available to you. And so that involves, so what is spiritual reasoning? It depends, first of all, on knowing some of the facts of how the laws of mind operate. It's the facts of the spiritual world, the laws of mind, the laws of healing, the laws of forgiveness, etc. There are many of them, and we talk about them as they come up in the textbook here. To be aware of them, and then when they are assembled together into a logical explanation, it's a set of spiritual reasoning that makes things perfectly clear and understandable. It's not magical thinking. It is the assembling of spiritual facts, facts known to the Holy Spirit, together to create a set of reasons to understand and believe these things. And it helps to answer these questions. When Julie shared, she said, I always thought that there was something going on here. She had a partial awareness, but it was still some questions that it wasn't perfectly clear. Well, spiritual reason brings clarity of mind to those questions. And it's very satisfying to go from confused to clear, is a very satisfying experience. And so all sorts of questions may arise, but know that there is one fundamental and basic question that the ego would not have you ask. It's not a question it wants you to be concerned with. I call it the basic existential question. What am I? For the answer, either you don't ask that question and leave a vacuum there, and the ego will rush in to provide a belief to fill that vacuum, or you consciously ask it and turn towards the Holy Spirit for understanding and accept the truth that she sheds on your eternal nature, something the ego could never explain to you, explains to you your permanent nature, how you were created, your essential being. Think not, reason could not answer this question. Julie, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Jonaca. For the first time, I just realized what the idea that nature or whatever other entity abhors a vacuum actually means. I conceptually got it, but I don't think I ever understood that a vacuum is a pretty active scenario. There is a lot of pulling, questioning, searching, needing, hungry, anxious, if you will. It's not, it's not an immobile place. And I don't think I ever really took that in until this example that you were sharing. And so it does call to consume whatever is going to get close enough in front of it to fill it up. And I don't think I ever realized that that's what that meant.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I think you speak for millions and perhaps billions of people that didn't realize, fundamental questions like, what is my purpose here? What am I? What is it I really want from life? What is the meaning of love? Fundamental questions like that, which are good to ask, but if there's not a satisfying answer to that, then there's a vacuum, and that vacuum, the world, ego world, will seek to fill that vacuum with substitute ideas that are adjusted to the chaos of the world. And once your mind accepts those substitute ideas they occupy your mind, and they drive your perceptions, and they wind up becoming a part of your belief system. And so it's a passive acceptance of a worldview that then starts to dominate the way you look at life. And so this is why we say you're innocent. You're not guilty for having accepted that worldview. It was really a passive, done in unawareness, done in the vacuum of ideas. And but since it was your own mind that accepted those ideas in, the power of your mind is still there to kick them out and let them be replaced. All right, I just have to check something here real quickly. Yeah, okay, we're good. All right. Okay, so we are getting somewhere that is very important here. Let's just summarize where we are right now. That little known to us in a world configured around the idea of separation, it interferes with our ability to use spiritual reasoning. It insists that we are cut off. In separation, we're divided and cut off from spiritual reason. That's what the ego would teach. What we're learning today is it's calling to you from the other room of your mind. It's calling to you from the room from where the light of the Holy Spirit comes from. And there is a basic question that the reason will help you to answer, which is, what am I? We'll go on.
God's plan for your salvation could not have been established without your will and your consent. It must have been accepted by the Son of God, for what God wills for him, he must receive. For God wills not apart from him, nor does the will of God wait upon time to be accomplished. Therefore, what joined the will of God must be in you now, being eternal. You must have set aside a place in which the Holy Spirit can abide, and where he is. He must have been there since the need for him arose, and was fulfilled in the same instant. Such would your reason tell you if you listened. Yet such is clearly not the ego's reasoning. Your reason's alien nature to the ego is proof you will not find the answer there. Yet if it must be so, it must exist. And if it exists for you, and has your freedom as the purpose given it, you must be free to find it.
Mm-hmm. So we said that spiritual reason assembles spiritual facts into a logical, understandable set of beliefs. So here are some of the facts. God's plan for your salvation includes you, includes your highest will, and before you were born, it concluded your consent. This is a transcendent idea that you agreed to be here to participate in the, in a sense of you. The key word is you. Your spiritual being is here by agreement. It's has your consent, and that you are part of a bigger plan. This is what we would call spiritual fact. It's not a random chaos, but it's part of a plan. And that will, that higher purpose that transcends your conscious mind, transcends the learning you've had up to this point in your life, and really a will that is for eternity, must be in you right now. If you are an eternal being, and you are, then that will must be a part of you right now. This is a spiritual fact. It's not saying that your ordinary conscious mind has yet remembered this spiritual fact, but the Course is asserting that the truth is already within you, and that there is a place set aside within you in which the Holy Spirit can abide, and the Holy Spirit is there now. And that when you responded to the Holy Spirit's purpose, this is what you were responding to, is this call within you. Let's see. Julie, did you have your hand up? Was that from before? Yeah, okay. All right. So these are a set of facts which initially it would ask of you to believe by faith, to believe these things by faith. What is, I find lovely about it, is they are all for your good. To say that your consent was involved in creation, that you were not being penalized by it, that your will was involved in that, and that your will is a part of eternity, and that it's in you now. These are, while these are lofty ideas for sure, they are transcendently good. They're good beyond just the measure of a single lifetime. They're eternally good. And that to believe that the Holy Spirit is abiding within you and has your best interest at heart, I find it easy to turn towards these beliefs and accept them into my mind. The only thing we're being asked to do is just allow these ideas in without objecting, without rejecting them. Allow them in, and that, like seeds in a garden, they will grow. They will grow in the room of your mind where the Holy Spirit sunshine is found. All right. Did I just do it again?
Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah. It's a double click. I have to change my mouse speed here.
God's plan is simple, never circular, and never self-defeating. He has no thoughts except the self-extending, and in this your will must be included. Thus there must be a part of you that knows his will and shares it. It is not meaningful to ask if what must be is so, but it is meaningful to ask why you were unaware of what is so, for this must have an answer if the plan of God for your salvation is complete. And it must be complete, because its source knows not of incompletion. Where would the answer be but in the source? And where are you but there, where this same answer is? Your identity, as much as a true effect of this same source as is the answer, must therefore be together and the same. Oh, yes, you know this, and more than this alone. Yet any part of knowledge threatens dissociation as much as all of it.
We're going to pause there.
And,
Yeah, because there's only so much we can take in. Yeah. So this is really profound and requires your attention, your focus, because these are a set of questions and considerations that the ego would not have you think about. And so it begins with the idea that there must be a part of you that knows God's will and shares in it. It's the concept that God's plan is not a secret, it's an open book. We would say that part of you was what we call the memory of God in the Course of Miracles. The memory of God is still with you in your higher mind. And it's not meaningful to ask why you're unaware of this. Okay, let me make sure. Okay, there's two things here. It's not meaningful to ask what must it be, but it is meaningful to ask, why are you unaware of this will? There has to be an answer to that question if the plan of God for your salvation is complete. Why is it that we don't know what God's will is? Spiritual reason can help. That's a question to which, if you ask it in the room of your mind, of your ego, you will not find the truth there, but the answer does lie in the higher part of your mind where spiritual reasoning works. And it speaks to it in the next paragraph. Where is the answer? The answer because the question is, why is it that we don't know God's will? Well, the answer comes from the source. And so this is very transcendent. Where are you? Where are you? In the ego's mind, we're not questioning that your body is sitting in a room listening to Zoom right now. We're not questioning where the body is. But where is your spiritual being right now? The first reaction that people have is inside the envelope of your skin. It's somewhere located inside that envelope, as if your spiritual being, which is eternal and which is from God, can be contained by skin or flesh and blood. Yeah, so that would be an initial reaction to assume that your spiritual being is in one physical location which is the same as where your body is. Most people think that way. Where are you? But where is the source of all creation? Let's look at this from question now from the other end. Where is the source of all creation right now? Is it inside your skin? And if it is, does that mean it's inside your skin, but not inside the skin of somebody else? No, that's not likely to be true. Is it subdivided inside the skin of everybody? No, that's not likely that the source of all creation is subdivided a million ways. So the answer here um, is one that transcends space. So this is a difficult idea. I want to acknowledge for those of you that are both have been here for a while, and those of you that are newer to the course, the idea of transcending space is a really big idea. But you could probably accept the idea that the creator of all creation is beyond any physical location. And then the question is, what about you? Are you separate from that source, or do you remain a part of it? Because if you remain a part of it, then you have the same attributes as the creator. And so I think that's as far as I'm going to go on that topic for right now, because I don't want people to be overwhelmed or confused by all this. But you do rest inside the palm of God's hand. Kathy, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, but I don't want to make it worse or go down a rabbit hole or something, but we are a part of God, and an idea never leaves its source. But the Course also says heaven and earth are within, and the universe therefore is within.
Yes.
So yes, it does. It transcends all of our regular thinking.
Yeah. And we're not invalidating that there's a physical body sitting in a room, watching Zoom, watching video. We're not disclaiming that that is a time-space manifestation. What we are saying is that reality is not limited to that physical body in time and space. That reality transcends that those limitations, and that you are a part of a transcendent reality. So, and therefore, you're going back to the fundamental, basic existential question: what am I? You are a part of a transcendent reality that transcends physical time and space. You are a true effect of the eternal source and must therefore be together and the same. Oh, yes, you know this, and you know more than this alone. It's in the memory of God. This is the memory that's housed in the higher room of your mind. So, Julie, I may have butchered paragraphs here a little bit, so you'll have to help me out with that.
Sure. Yet any part of knowledge threatens dissociation as much as all of it, and all of it will come with any part. Here is the part you can accept. What reason points to, you can see, because the witnesses on its behalf are clear. Only the totally insane can disregard them. And you have gone past this. Reason is a means that serves the Holy Spirit's purpose in its own right. It is not reinterpreted and redirected from the goal of sin, as are the others. For reason is beyond the ego's range of means.
That last statement, spiritual reason is beyond the ego's range of means of understanding, for sure. Uh, and I want to honor each of you and thank you for not allowing the ego's narrow range of understanding to cause you to outright reject spiritual reason, because that's what the ego would invite you to do, is immediately reject anything outside of the ego's range. And what we are talking about is definitely beyond the ego's range. So what the ego wants is to keep reality dissociated into fragments of little pieces of beliefs that don't add up to anything grand, that make no sense, that are essentially chaotic. The ego wants to use disassociation to fragment your understanding. And what we are doing in this reading, in these last few paragraphs, any part of knowledge threatens that dissociation by giving a reasonable set of ideas that paint a totality, a wholeness, a plan of creation, a plan that extends beyond any one time or any one space, and very much includes your will and your identity. Knowledge threatens the ego's dissociated and fragmented viewpoint. It's far beyond the ego's range of means. And so now we really have, I think, a more complete appreciation of what spiritual reason can do. It allows you to go beyond anything the ego ever could conceive of. And yet, it assembles together a set of spiritual facts which are easy to love, easy to be at peace with, that are, how shall I say this? I was going to say they're morally upright. They're beyond the morals of time and space. They are so elevated that they are certainly consistent with a high moral attitude, but they far transcend even the descriptions of morals and ethics of our world. A holy relationship far transcends the highest ethical teachings of our world. So in that sense, it's easy for the heart to open and say yes to these things. Kathy?
I just remembered the Course also says that we are each a thought in the mind of God. So if every soul is a thought in the mind of God, that really, you kind of wonder, I wonder, wow. So it's all in the realm of thought, so space and time, will come a point where they don't exist at all. It'll just be, so anyway, sorry.
You're onto it, Kathy. I'm really glad to hear you say that, because it took me years before I could really be comfortable with that idea. you are a thought in God's mind, and you have never left God's mind. There is a place forever in God's mind of you. And therefore, their source and effect are still one and united together. And so these ideas are only difficult because they're beyond the ego's range of thinking, and they threaten the ego's range of thinking. And so it immediately wants to knee-jerk react and say that makes no sense. And it's your faith that allows you to say, okay, I'll let that thought into my mind and add it to some of the other statements that I've learned from the Holy Spirit and let that all gel. That's what faith allows you to do, is go beyond the ego's range of means. Wow, what an amazing reading we are doing here.
Faith and perception and belief can be misplaced and serve the great deceiver's needs as well as truth. But reason has no place at all in madness, nor can it be adjusted to fit its end. Faith and belief are strong in madness, guiding perception toward what the mind has valued. But reason enters not at all in this, for the perception would fall away at once if reason were applied. There is no reason in insanity, for it depends entirely on reason's absence. The ego never uses it because it does not realize that it exists. The partially insane have access to it, and only they have need of it. Knowledge does not depend on it, and madness keeps it out.
Mm-hmm. So, Kathy, we spoke earlier today. We didn't speak in these terms exactly, but here it is. There's 3 states that are referred to in this paragraph that are outlined in yellow at bottom. The first one is before, we've all been there. It's where we were guided almost entirely by the ego and the teachings of this world. So we were limited to the range of understanding for which the ego teaches. And their spiritual reason is not possible. Where it's entirely identified with our false self, and therefore in a chaotic world becomes truly unstable. The second phase is the goal of this course, is to bring you towards the door of the other room and to have you develop a set of habits that constantly have you orienting towards that door by choice. And here, spiritual reason helps, because now you're seeing the illusions and also seeing the spiritual facts and making a choice, and spiritual reason helps there. And then the third state is the truly transcendent state, when you become permanently encamped in the other room of light and truth. There, you no longer need reason to help you find the door. You've found it. And so you are free of it. Knowledge does not depend on reason, but reason is essential for you to get to knowledge. So it's a journey. What we're saying is there are journeys. There's a journey. You pass through 3 distinct stages, which are well defined for everybody. And to go back to our point earlier, what you want to learn is what are the conditions of my mind that will help me stay on track, oriented towards the door, so that I can become truly free. How do I develop the mind training that will allow me to stay on course and not get pulled off course? Spiritual reason is in a, let's emphasize one other thing. Do I want to do that right now? Yes. It is possible for us to put our faith and our belief in lies. It is widespread that people believe in things that are not true, and they believe in them strongly, and they identify with them strongly. So that refers to this: faith and perception and belief can be misplaced and serve the great deceiver instead. So the beauty of the Holy Spirit's program is, since we are already well practiced in placing our faith and belief in something, she enables us to take those abilities. It's the power of your mind to believe in what you want to believe in. She helps us, gives us another choice so that we can withdraw our faith and belief from deception and instead place it in the spiritual light, the spiritual facts that Holy Spirit reveals, and use the same ability that got us into confusion. We repurpose that ability now to help us find our way out. I love that. That means you've already have all the skills you need. But you do need to repurpose them according to the Holy Spirit's goal. Julie?
Thank you, Jonaca. Does that mean that in this context, reason is one of those holy words? For example, the difference between sight and vision?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way I read it, is in the context of miracles, reason is always used to help you find spirit. Now, yeah. So let's see, holy, I would call it a healing term, because you can get to the point where you no longer need reason. Once you're completely free, you're no longer trying to navigate between illusions and the truth. You've arrived there, but until then, you need reason. We definitely, all of us, need reason to help clarify our choices. Yeah. And so we didn't say it today, but where does reason come from? Maybe we did, but might not have been emphasized. Spiritual reason is a gift of the Holy Spirit. Where does it come from? It's given as a holy gift from a higher mind, and we are invited to participate in that holy gift. Go ahead, Julie.
This is really cool. I think I'm able today to express that I maybe have a story around how blind faith really has not been palatable for me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I had been open to the idea that, some spiritual paths wouldn't have you maybe use the gift of reason. However, this one does. And this is where we are today. And so, given that the course would lead me to be a thoughtful choice maker,
Yes.
that works so much better for my constitution than blind faith, because I find myself to be really attracted to reason.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It's true. This honors your ability to use spiritual reason for yourself. Yeah, that's more noble than having somebody else do it for you and then you just blindly accept what was given. I don't want to go there. But thank you for that. It is true. It honors your participation. You're willing to use your mind along with the Holy Spirit and arriving at spiritual reasons. Especially, there are many situations in life where it's not clear what to do, even when you want to do your best. And spiritual reason is one of the tools that we have. And that reminds me, Kathy, don't let me go without sharing the event next Saturday.
The part of mind where reason lies was dedicated by your will in union with your father's to the undoing of insanity. Here was the Holy Spirit's purpose accepted and accomplished, both at once. Reason is alien to insanity, and those who use it have gained a means which cannot be applied to sin. Knowledge is far beyond attainment of any kind, but reason can serve to open doors you closed against it. You have come very close to this. Faith and belief have shifted, and you have asked the question the ego will never ask. Does not your reason tell you now the question must have come from something that you do not know, but must belong to you? Faith and belief, upheld by reason, cannot fail to lead to changed perception. And in this change is room made way for vision. Vision extends beyond itself, as does the purpose that it serves and all the means for its accomplishment.
Wow, there was a lot there. I was a little distracted while Julie was reading, so I'm in catch-up mode here now. So it does say that reason can serve to open doors you close behind it. It's the idea of there's these two rooms and there's a doorway, and the ego would have you close that door and, so to speak, shut out the light that comes from the other room. Think of having a closed mind where, like, honestly, what we were talking about earlier about where is your spiritual being right now, the ego would want you to shut that door, because these aren't questions the ego can ask. Where's your spiritual being? So it would have you shut the door to that question, to that knowledge. Reason can serve to open the door to that understanding. And so what we are all experiencing is the shift from where, as Julie mentioned, a blind faith that we might have practiced before. We're shifting our faith and our belief, and now are able to ask questions for ourselves that the ego is not capable of asking. And we suggested that one of them is the great existential question, what am I? And there are other, and what is my purpose here? And what is my relationship to others? And what is the meaning of love? And how does healing occur? As a matter of fact, part 2 of the workbook has a series of themes, special themes, that are all based around a set of questions. What is creation? What is the world? What is the ego? What am I? Questions that only spiritual reason can offer sensical responses to, that in your heart you know are true. And all of this times months and months of daily practice leads to changed perception, leads to what we call the new perception. It's a new vision. It's the same planet, but it's a new way of you looking inside to the truth that is within you, to the light and innocence within your being, and then looking outside to extend that truth outward, and allow it's what we call the new perception. And in this change in room, so this brings about what we call the new vision, and we'll have more to say on that vision later on, because it is a transformed outlook. Yes, a transformed way of looking outward on the world that first looks inward and then looks outward. And so it's a transformed way of looking at everything in life. I have 2 more things I need to do. One, I thought that it might be helpful to mention spiritual bypassing in this context, because that the word spiritual bypassing was popularized in a book that was written in the 90s and has traveled around in certain groups, and so it's commonly referred to. And a simple word would be, bypassing is avoiding dealing with painful feelings, unresolved wounds, or uncomfortable issues. We're not going to go there. That's a bypass. But spiritual reason is the antithesis of spiritual bypass. For spiritual reason says, wait a minute, that's guilty feeling you just had, those grievances, those judgments, let's bring them out into the light and see what they are. These are your own judgments, your own projections of pain outward. And is that what you want, or do you want what is residing in the other room where you don't have to be the judge? So spiritual reason allows you to understand you have a choice in which of these worldviews that you put your faith in, and therefore determines the way you feel. You have a choice in that. And so it's much different than bypassing, which refuses to acknowledge and look at those issues. I have one other thing that I need to share with you all. Give me a moment while I do a little, I had forgotten until just this moment, but we can quickly pull it up here. All right, and now I just have to figure out how to share it on Zoom with you, which we now have. Julie Kessler, as many of you know, passed away a few weeks ago. And next Saturday at 11 a.m., they're going to have a celebration service for her in Delray Beach. For those of you who'd like to attend, this is just an announcement to make sure that you know of that event. The RSVPs if you want to attend, because they will be serving food and refreshments as well afterwards. The RSVPs are to Julie's husband, and the phone number is shown on there. Okay. So that's as far, is that showing okay? That announcement is showing all right? Yeah, okay. All right, so that is as far as we're going to go in time and space today. I know that was a lot. Kathy's friend, Diane, was here today, and she's new, I understand, to Course in Miracles. So Diane, we want to welcome you and hope that that wasn't so much to scare you off, but to encourage you to come back. That was really profound and intense, though. So we know that you and Kathy will have some things to talk about later. I want
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Diane. So I want to just honor everyone here. It takes spiritual courage to go beyond the range of the ego. It takes faith and belief to turn away from the room that's become the prison cell of your mind and turn towards another room that seems less familiar initially, but actually holds all the precious promises that you could ever want. So I want to honor each day and each action that you take in turning towards the light. I honor the divinity within you. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you.
Peace and love, my
Namaste.
friends.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for reading, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank-
Jonathan, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Julie.
Welcome.
Everybody have a good week.